AITA for outshining the bride. So I, 27 female, am a black African woman. I'm living and working in Germany for a fixed period on secondment. While here, I became quite friendly with a colleague, 60 female, and she invited me to her daughter's wedding. I was excited as I've never been to a white wedding. I asked if there was a dress code, color scheme to adhere to since it wasn't specified on the invite. I was told the code is dress to impress. Bet. Day of the wedding, I understand the assignment. I wear my traditional wear, which is really beautiful, and obviously not German. The garment is green, so no problem there. Or so I thought. I get a lot of questions and compliments at the wedding, which I genuinely downplay because it's not my day. My colleague seems colder than usual, but I pay it no mind since she's mother of bride and could be preoccupied. The bride is downright rude to me, but again I give her grace. I congratulate her and thank her for including me, and I get a tight face in response. I keep to the edges of the room as the music isn't really my vibe, and I'm just observing how European weddings work. I leave around 8, after 5 hours, and go home before the wedding finishes. Monday I walked into whispers in the office, people actually strangely and more reserved than usual. An office friend pulls me aside and fills me in. Bride's mother is fuming. My outfit was too extravagant, over the top and inappropriate. I drew attention from the bride and commandeered the room. I was rude and disrespectful. She's told people all about it, apparently. I approach her and ask to speak, but she says she has nothing to say to me. I ask her why she has something to say to everyone else about me but not to me, and she calls me an insolent child. I explain to anyone who scolds me that this was my first white people wedding. I specifically asked what to do where and followed the guidelines. Where I'm from, there's no such thing as outshines the bride. Weddings are a fashion show and a chance to wear your best and brightest clothes. They told me this isn't Africa, which was racially coded, and people here have manners. I laughed and told that person to go to H, so she's telling people I lack remorse for my behavior. I'm wondering if I really am the jerk though. AITA for telling my vegan sister she can't serve only vegan food at our family reunion. Hey all, I'm genuinely torn about this and need some clarity. Every year, our family has a reunion where different members host. This year, it's my younger sister's turn. She's been vegan for about 3 years and is quite passionate about it. We all respect her choices and make sure there are a good variety of vegan options whenever we have family gatherings. When she announced she'll be hosting, she also said that the entire menu would be vegan to align with her beliefs, and that it's a chance for the family to try something different. Some family members were excited, but others, including many of the older folks, were pretty upset and felt like they were being forced into her lifestyle, even if just for one meal. I spoke to her privately and asked if she'd be open to including a few non-vegan dishes for those who aren't keen on a full vegan menu. She got quite defensive, saying this was her chance to showcase veganism, and that for one meal, everyone can give it a go. I respect her beliefs, but I also think that forcing an entire family to adopt her choices, even if just for one meal, isn't fair. She's now upset with me for not being supportive and says I'm not respecting her choices. AITA for telling my sister-in-law she should cancel the baby shower she was planning for me, and I would prefer not to have one than have one where she doesn't respect my boundaries. My husband and I are expecting our first baby in a few months, and my sister-in-law offered to throw us a baby shower. I was really in love with the idea and accepted, and then my mother-in-law got involved. But my sister-in-law disrespected the one clear boundary regarding the baby shower that I had, and she refuses to let it go despite being told by not only me, but mother-in-law and my husband as well. She insisted that my half-siblings should be invited, as well as finding bio family from both sides and inviting them. This is an absolutely never a thing for me. I did not invite them to my wedding, and I have not seen or spoken to them in several years. But she's going extremely hard on the but family argument. Background: I'm an affair baby. My father cheated on his wife and I was the result. His wife kicked him to the curb and he and my mother stayed together. I was born and they did not take care of me, and when I was 3 I was removed from their care by CPS. None of my biological family wanted me. My mother's family were supposedly good Christians who couldn't stand the thought of an illegitimate affair baby, and my father's family were not in the position to take care of such a young child. My father's ex-wife ended up taking me. I'm not sure why. The fact she was paid to take care of me was possibly the reason. I do know is I was not loved. My half-siblings ranged from 11 to 17 at the time, and they all hated me. It was made perfectly clear to me from a young age that I was never to call her mom, and I was never to call them my brothers and sisters. My father's family were still in their lives and knew how I was treated, and they wouldn't even report it to my caseworker. I mentioned it once or twice, but I think she found it easier to dismiss a kid's words. My childhood was miserable and I was seen as a burden and as someone who should never have been born. My half-siblings continued visiting their mom as adults and all just made it clear they couldn't stand me and were disgusted by my presence. I just left when I was 16 and nobody ever reported me missing or came looking for me. My sister-in-law knows my background and she knows that I would never want them in my life again. But push she continues to do, and I spoke to my mother-in-law and she tried to take over more, but sister-in-law insisted that she had offered first. When she brought it up again, I told her to cancel the shower, and I would rather have no shower than one thrown by her when she can't respect my boundaries. Mother-in-law stepped in and is now hosting one, but sister is really mad because she had spent a while planning and had paid for some stuff already. Mother-in-law said she'd give her the money back, but sister-in-law said I was in the wrong and I should appreciate her for wanting to give me back my family. I told her I had no family until I met them and she needs to accept that my blood relatives do not want me and I do not want them. I know she keeps telling my husband how wrong I was and he keeps defending me, but I feel bad about the tension now. AITA for telling my son that he needs therapy. My son was bullied back in high school. He is now an adult with a wife and kids. A few days ago we received a call from my daughter's school. Apparently she bullied one of her classmates. It was nothing serious, just some name calling. We punished her and made her apologize. My son was there when we received the call and he took it very personally. He is now completely ignoring his sister. Last night he called to invite us to dinner, asking us to leave that be at home because she is not invited. I was surprised and asked him WTF is wrong with him to refer to his little sister like that. He said that he hated bullies and doesn't want them at his home. I told him to get some therapy because he clearly needs it and told him to call us after he worked through his issues and decided to apologize. Until then I don't want to see him. He called me a jerk and hung up. AITA for losing my ass with my half-sister after she started talking about my mom owing her. My half-sister via my dad reached out to me after she left foster care 18 months ago. Dad and her mom lost custody of her when she was a baby and she went into the system. I was 7 at the time and my parents had divorced after Dad got her mom pregnant with her. Neither shaped up enough to take her back and none of her bio relatives wanted her, at least the ones that were approached. Dad was estranged from his family, so no idea if they actually heard from anyone related to CPS back then. My mom was approached and told the social worker she would not take my half-sister. She told me about my half-sister and her being in foster care and let me know that one day my half-sister might want contact with me. The day came and I was like, you know what, if she has questions I will try to answer them and we'll see what happens. She was very enthusiastic to have me in her life and came on very strong. I set some boundaries and she pushed on them a lot until I let her know that she was at risk for losing contact with me again. She backed off and we started getting to know each other like the strangers we were. A few times she asked about my life and my childhood and my mom. One thing she focused a lot on was whether my mom had other kids. When I was 13, mom took in my cousins, her niece and nephew, after their parents died. My sister was always so weird about that and recently brought it back up again and wanted to know what I thought about that and whether mom needed time to consider it. I told her that wasn't really something we needed to talk about. She went off saying of course it was. She called my mom a bee and said she let her go into the foster system to rot and separating us when a few years later she could take on 2 kids just because they were related to her. She started saying my mom owed her better than that seeing as she's my sister. I lost my ass with my half-sister and told her my mom owed her nothing. I said she was not my mom's kid and my mom would not have been the right person to raise her since she was born from Dad's affair and she should be looking at her bio relatives to be mad at if she really wants to blame people for letting her go into foster care. My half-sister said she has every right to feel like my mom failed her and should have stepped up. She said she was a baby and she went through hell her entire childhood in the system. She told me I was a jerk for yelling at her and an even bigger one for defending my mom.